Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Thanks for joining me again today. Today I have a great guest. His name is Paul Piccirilli. Did I get that right, Paul?
Yes.
And he is the fire marshal with the city of Roswell, Georgia. So today we're going to talk all about fire safety, car seat safety, health safety, tell you how you can prevent possible occurrences that might harm you physically or emotionally, and your belongings like your house as well. So first of all, I want to introduce Paul. Paul, thank you for coming and being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime we can spread the word about, the show's called Better Living. Anytime we can affect people to live better lives, I get excited. I'm so blessed to have this show every week. So thanks for being here. First of all, let's talk about how you got involved in becoming a fire marshal. How does one decide they want to become a fire marshal?
Well, one decided that he wanted to be in law enforcement.
Oh, really? He looks like a law enforcement individual. It would scare me if he came to serve me.
I'm not here to scare anybody. But, and that didn't pan out. So the fire service was just the next step in community service that I got involved with, and started as a volunteer firefighter in Roswell. And then a job came up for a fire inspection job, and I was the only one that had a 2-year degree out of the applicants, so I got hired. And then that segued to I'll start my 30th year in July of this year. And I know I only look 22 years old.
He does.
So the way I got promoted to fire marshal, I went from inspector to deputy fire marshal captain and then to fire marshal because the previous fire marshal had retired. So that's how I got to where I'm at. And
I love folks in community service because you really are there to serve others. And it's just so apparent even in your intro. Well, the only reason I got picked was because I had a 2-year degree. I'm sure you got picked for other reasons as well. But it's that kind of mentality that brings people, I think, in a lot of ways to community service. It's always about others, not about themselves. So I just got a kick out of your introduction because it just kind of goes right with the whole persona of you're out there to help everybody else.
Right. Well, I mean, we don't get in this business for the pay. I mean, to be quite honest with you, it's not for the pay. And it's really not a job. It's really a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. The people who have been in the service as long as I have, it's a way of life. When you leave your kid's birthday party to go to a fire call or to go do something else with the city, it's just something that the whole family needs to understand. That's just the way it is.
We're going to talk about fire safety today mostly, but just you saying, as a fire marshal, I'm visualizing you leaving a kid's birthday party. Your whole way of life is different because you're attending that birthday party and you can't separate yourself from the fire marshal in you. Mm. So you're at the birthday party and you're seeing the droves of people in this building and you're looking at all the safety hazards, I'm so sure. And
it was actually my kid's birthday.
Was it? Okay. One thing I want to talk to folks about safety, because I know I've got grandparents listening right now. I am a huge hater of balloons because when my kids were little, they were at a very popular birthday spot for young kids, and a 5-year-old little girl was running with a balloon in her hand, tripped, balloon popped in her mouth. You can't pull those out. Choked and died on a balloon. So we're doing a show on fire safety, but we're doing a show on safety in general. So one thing that I have to say to pipe in is get the Mylar balloons. I absolutely hate balloons. And anytime I see a toddler or a young child with a balloon, if they take a step, I tell them don't run or let go of that balloon. Have you seen that? Or
I have never seen that, but okay. I can imagine after you've seen that, I can understand your hesitation for it.
Yeah, because of the material in that balloon, you can't pull that out of someone's throat. So
right.
One safety tip before we get to Paul talking about fire safety. So Paul, let's talk about one of the major issues you see in your role as fire marshal in terms of fire safety.
The major issue is apathy. The major issue that we deal with is trying to convince people that not only can it happen to you, but it more than likely will happen to you in one way or another. We go out to the schools and do fire safety education. And when I was doing it for fifth graders, I would always make a point. My tagline on my email is, it's everyone's fire prevention is everyone's responsibility, or preventing fires is everyone's responsibility. I think specifically what it says. Because we can go out to the schools and teach the younger kids all about fire safety and what to do, and they're all excited about it, and it's cool because Fireman Paul's coming to the class and all that. But if they don't go home and talk to the family about it, and the family buy into what we're teaching them, it's really not very effective. So I always made it a point to them that if they didn't get their homework, because our program with the Fulton County school system it's a curriculum that was approved by Fulton County. We give them tests. They have to have homework assignments. But I would never give them the A unless they had it signed by a parent. And I know a lot of times the kid's going to say, oh, well, yeah, she just signed it because I was supposed to sign it. But if nothing more, at least the parent had to look at the paper and say, oh, well, look, this is what they're in it. It really doesn't serve the purpose that I would want it to serve, but it's better than nothing. So
let's talk about that, because that is really important. And you hear stories on the news all the time about these young kids, 5 years old, 6 years old. They remember they needed to call 911, or they remember don't throw water on a grease fire, whatever. What are the top things you want to leave, what you want the kids to remember in terms of fire safety to bring home to their parents?
Well, it's funny you say that about it. It's true. The kids know to do that, but do the parents?
Right.
I know when I was growing up, I had fire people come to my school, but I don't know if my mom and dad ever did. So we have a lot of calls for fires that occur because of undetected cooking. So we make a point to the kids. But basically, to answer your question is, we teach them the basics. Obviously, stop, drop, and roll if your clothes catch on fire. Don't play in the kitchen. Make sure that you have an escape route planned and practiced. It's okay if you sit there and say, hey, we're going to do this. But if you don't practice it, it's like I tell them, I said, oh, you kids in here, you play baseball? Yeah. Well, do you think you could hit a home run if you never practiced how to hit a home run? So do you think that you would actually know what to do in a fire if you had not walked through it, through your house with the rest of your family? And, of course, they ask questions like, what about the dog? What about my clothes? What about this? And, it's pretty funny because in conversations, if you keep your door closed in your house, obviously it's going to stop smoke from getting into your bedroom, assuming the fire's not in your bedroom. Mm-hmm. The smoke, and it's going to keep you safer longer. Because what's the first thing that you are being alerted to from a fire is the smoke detectors. Mm-hmm. Well, I get kids who say, well, I leave my door open because my mom wants to make sure they can hear me if I get up. I said, then buy a baby monitor and then they can hear you. Well, it's too hot in the room. Get a fan. Every excuse they have to keep their door open, I can come up with a reason not to. Oh, the dog sleeps in the room. Put a dog door in the door. I mean, there's no reason to not keep your door closed because it's going to stop that smoke from going in your room. And as you know, your nose doesn't smell at night. So basically you're laying in there breathing the smoke, and basically you're dying because of the smoke inhalation.
And that is so important. Of course, what's the first thing you do when you hear the smoke detector go off?
You jump out of
bed
and go,
you open the door and check things out and let all the smoke in, right?
Right, exactly.
Because you want to make sure your kids are safe, or your grandkids are safe, or your pets are safe, or what have you. So that would be your first reaction.
And that's what we're teaching the kids.
Yeah.
To roll out of bed, go to the door, feel the door with the back of your hand before you open the door. It applies to adults.
Yeah.
It's just that we have the opportunity to go to the schools and teach the kids. We don't always have the opportunity to go to the adults and teach the adults. Mm-hmm. So you hope that if the kid listened to our lessons, which I have a story to tell you about that where somebody did, but if they roll out of bed, feel the door, and the door's cool, and they can go out and check things out and use their escape plan to get out. If the door's hot, they use the ladder that you would have bought them for Christmas to go out their window.
Speaking of that ladder, because I was just going to mention that, you see, I think it's like $79 for one story and $160 for those roll-up ladders that you can keep in the closet. Of course, I bought one. I have 2 kids in 2 separate bedrooms, but at least I've got something on the second floor.
We actually teach some of the kids that if they have that situation where if they have to go to one room to the next, if you have a sure enough fire, that your child can't go out the door to go into the next room over there, it's really not that hard to chop through sheetrock. And you can go through the sheetrock wall to the next door, to the next room over. If it's your life, if you're fighting for your life, I'm punching through that wall and getting through that wall. And I know a little kid may not be able to do that, but if they have a drawer, they can take the drawer out of their dresser and ram it into the wall and put a hole in it. You got to teach them to fight for their lives.
But those ladders, I'll tell you, it's hard to spend that kind of money. There's always other reasons to spend that kind of money. But for peace of mind, just to go through the exercise once with your kids or your grandkids and to know that you have that there at least to help, I can't implore people enough to get those ladders. They're great. You can keep them right in the bedroom closet. They can pull them out if they're ever in trouble. You've gone through that with them.
Well, that's part of the doing your home escape plan with your family is to plan ahead for that situation. Okay, well, I can't get out the door. How do I get out the window? And by the way, a lot of people nail their window shut. It's not going to be very good if you have a fire and your kid can't figure out how to open the window. Wow. Or they have the special locks on the windows.
Right.
So that is very important. It's part of the escape plan. It's part of everything else. But I challenged my fifth graders because we did fire safety right around Christmas time, which was very cool. I said, I challenge you to not ask for a video game that's a $60 video game and ask for a ladder. And out of a couple of classes of 25 kids, 3 to 4 per class actually got an
That's
escape ladder.
Awesome.
So
I love that.
It was pretty cool.
That's great. And then, we're talking about kids, but also to go through this if you have an older parent in your home with you, to make sure that you're reviewing this as well. We have a lot of times, I'm in the sandwich generation and moving parents down to Atlanta to live here with us too. And for a while there, my mom lived in my house. No, I didn't go through the escape route plan, but that would be important to do with your elderly loved ones as well.
Yes, obviously sometimes the elderly have mobility issues and hearing issues with smoke detector. I know my child, wow. I have gone in his room, and this is very important to make sure that whoever's in your house can hear the smoke detectors when they're asleep. Not during the day, but when they're actually sleeping. And go in their room and push the smoke detector and see if it wakes them up. And if it doesn't wake them up, you got to figure out a different method to get them up. I can push the smoke detector in my boy's room for 3 or 4 minutes and it doesn't budge. He doesn't budge. So
that's important. So is there lights or what do you do? Can you buy some kind of a monitor that if the smoke detector goes off, it'll...
Well, I'm sure there are products that you can go research. Of course, Google is your friend.
Yeah.
But there are different sounds that you can get. There's also smoke detectors you can record your voice onto. So when the smoke detector goes off, it'll say whatever message you put into the smoke detector will be announced over the smoke detector. I think awareness is the biggest thing. I told you apathy is the biggest challenge we have. And when people who have apathy typically won't be changing their batteries in their smoke detectors, they're not going to be practicing escape plans or anything like that. The stuff that we want people to do. And yes, you're right. It's just as important for a young child. Well, it's important for the whole family, obviously. But a young child has different decision capabilities. So do some elderly people may have some decision issues where they're not making right decisions. So that's when the whole family has to get together to decide, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Let's say mom takes care of the younger kids, dad takes care of the elderly that's in the house. You have to assign tasks for everybody.
That's a great idea. And then even, too, if you have an older parent living with you, don't worry about the pet. I'll get the pet. This is what you need to do. And then whether you can get the pet or not, that's a story. But at least they know that that's been decided upon. Then you can get yelled at later, but at least you're both yelling at each other.
Right. Well, you hope that the pets will get out. My dogs are like my kids.
Me too.
And they're part of the escape plan. I mean, to just be quite honest with you, if you have the ability, if your family has the ability to take care of everybody's needs and you've worked it out, and you're going to have to do the escape plan saying, okay, there's a fire in the kitchen today and do a little thing. And then, what if there's a fire in the bathroom, and work through how you're going to get past all that and work it out. The bottom line is this. If you prevent the fire, hopefully none of this will ever happen. You talked about the ladder. Yes, that's true. But we buy insurance that we may never, ever use. It's the same thing with the ladder. And is the $79 worth your life if anything did ever happen? Would it be worth your life?
Yeah,
I would say sure it is. A smoke detector. We say, oh, hey, $1.29 battery, is it worth your life? Because we all know that if you have a smoke detector that doesn't work or isn't maintained, it could cost you your life.
Yeah, I'm thinking that somebody must have come to my kid's school too, because if the smoke detector starts beeping, he's like, Mom, you need to change the batteries in that smoke detector. And
that's where we feel success. Just as we had a fire that occurred that started in a floor furnace. The older boy, there was a mother, a grandmother, an infant, and a 13-year-old boy. So you have the whole range of ages. The 13-year-old boy was alerted to the smoke detector. He escaped out of the house without going past the fire, went around the house, got his baby sister out of the crib from her window coming from outside in, saved her from there were a couple people burnt. The sister was actually burnt. And he attributed how he reacted to that fire because of, at that time, Fireman Tony coming around doing fire safety education in the schools. So that was a huge, huge success story for our program and obviously for that family, because you could have had 4 people dead in that fire.
Wow, what a kid. That's awesome. And what a program. And that's got to do your heart good.
Yeah, it's very rewarding
Keeps
to
you
know
motivated
that works.
Keep going. Yeah.
Because we don't always know that what we're doing is working.
Right.
So it's nice to hear when you do know.
Right. I actually have a coworker who had a fire in her home. And she had twin baby boys. I think they were toddlers. And she will tell the story of her running out with a boy on under each arm, running out of the house. So they all escaped okay. They lost the house. But I don't know. I'd be curious to know whether they had practiced that, or as luck have it, everybody got out okay.
Well, there's always that fight or flight that goes on. But even if you don't practice it, you hope that you're going to be able to get out. And, of course, you know that the number one purpose of the fire department is life safety.
Right.
That house can burn as long as you all have gotten out of the house. I would rather see a family standing by that mailbox saying, everybody's out of the house, we're all good, and we lose the house, than to have to deal with the aftermath of they don't get out of the house.
Absolutely.
Because after that, we get to go in and do the investigation. And it's not a very pleasant situation to have to deal with investigation with fatalities.
Let's talk a little bit about that. And I don't know if you're going to have an answer for this question, but I know as a mom, if I got out and realized someone was still in there, if I had a kid in there, I'd probably be running back into that house. So what are some tips? How do you know, like the little boy, going back in and getting his baby sister out of the crib by breaking the window? Are there any rules of thumb as to, okay, you might be able to make this out, or absolutely don't go in if this is occurring?
Okay, well, what we teach is if you've gotten out of the house, to stay out of the house.
Yeah, I just don't think people are going to adhere to that all the time.
I'm sure that people won't adhere to that, and what unfortunate thing in that is we end up with 2 victims instead of 1. That's the unfortunate thing. I'm quite sure that I would do the same thing. I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect whoever's in that house. However, the best practice is if you're out, stay out. I mean, the little saying we say is get out, stay out. I understand that there's a person in the house. Here's the thing. What if you think the child or whoever is still in the house and they've gotten out the back?
Well, that's true.
Now you've gone into the house and they're outside safe in the backyard, and then you die. That's
true.
The unfortunate thing. That's why practicing escape drills in the home would resolve that, because everybody would have the spot to meet at, and then accountability is taken. And you say, oh, look, everybody's out of the house. And then you'll know. If you go out and I make that point to the 5th graders, if you go out to the house, if you know what to do and don't share it with the rest of your family, we're teaching you in 5th grade to share what we're talking about. You're standing at the mailbox saying, hey, I'm out. Oh, where's Mom? Oh, I forgot to tell her where the safe meeting place is. That's why it's so important to communicate with the whole family. And
it's a decision-making. It's going to help you decide not to go in the house, because you don't have to question, well, maybe she's somewhere else.
Exactly.
No, if,
You'll know.
You'll know, yeah.
You'll know. Because if you go in and you don't know and you become a victim, that's not.
And I will tell you, maybe we practiced once with a kitchen fire years ago. But two things were done. This is where the safety ladder is. I want you to show you how to get this on the window. And two, this is the neighbor's house we're all going to meet at. So it wasn't nearly probably as effective as it should have been. However, we did have some basics down. So even if you're not going to run through it, talk it out. Do something. Don't just ignore it like that apathy.
Mm-hmm. At least you did something.
Yeah. How long does it take a fire to completely engulf a home?
Oh, that's a question that you'd have to have a scientist for that. It depends on what's in the house, how long it's been in the house, how old it is. But a rule of thumb is it doubles in size every minute.
Oh, my God.
And there's tons of videos on different websites, nfpa.org, that'll show you how a fire will progress. And
So you really want to get out within...
You better be out pretty darn quick.
Okay.
Because don't forget, it's not the fire that kills people; it's the smoke.
Smoke. Mm-hmm.
It's the smoke that kills people.
And even teaching your children to take the pillowcase off, put it up on your mouth. I mean, I'm just thinking that might buy them a few extra seconds to get out of the house.
Crawling.
Crawl.
Being low. Being low
stop,
below
drop,
the
and
smoke.
roll. Yeah, and stop and drop and crawl out. Right. Okay. What else? You mentioned unattended kitchen fires start because cooking is unattended.
Correct.
Is it gas stoves?
It doesn't make any difference. If you put something on the stove and start cooking it, walk out, and the stove's on, what's in that pan or pot is going to catch fire eventually.
And is that busy moms, older parents? What do you see?
It's a combination of everything. Hey, let me just tell you
fathers.
This morning, I'm making breakfast this morning, sprayed the egg pan with Pam, and forgot all about it. Went back in the kitchen, and it was all brown, getting ready to go.
Actually, you're right. Just last night, this morning, I was boiling eggs because my son ate the last boiled egg in the refrigerator, and that was my breakfast. So I boiled the eggs, sat down to watch TV, and I said, "Is it raining outside?" Forgot about the eggs boiling, so almost the water was all out of the pan. So
So let's say you had gone to work,
right?
And all the water boiled out of the pan. Now you only have this eggs. The eggs are eventually going to catch fire.
Wow. Yeah, so that could have been me too. So I guess before you leave the house every day, check the oven.
I walk around and I check all the doors to make sure they're locked, and I probably triple check the stove to make sure it's off. I actually touch the stove to make sure it's not hot, and I make sure that the toasters or any toaster ovens are unplugged.
That's true. We don't leave the house without checking to make sure the doors are locked. Most people will check to make sure their doors are locked. So just add that habit to your routine. Check the doors and check your kitchen appliances. Make sure they're off and that it's not on.
Curling irons, candles, anything else that is going to be a heat-producing product.
I'm not a candle fan. Before we started this show today, Fireman Paul, my assistant, said he doesn't think there's enough to talk about to last a whole hour, so maybe it'll be just a half hour. Well, we already have to take a break. So if you'll just stay with us, we haven't even covered the gamut of how to keep you all safe in terms of fire safety. We haven't talked about child car seat safety, CPR. So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Hey, this is Jean. Thanks for staying with us. I'm still here with Fireman Paul Piccirilli with the Roswell Fire Department. He is the fire marshal for the city of Roswell, Georgia. The first half hour, we talked all about fire safety and how important it is to have your safety drills communicated and practiced in your home so that in the event of a fire, however unlikely you think that may be, it could be you at some point in time, in the event of a fire, you are prepared. You have communicated where your meeting spot's going to be. You have communicated how to evacuate. You have practiced if you can. If not, at least communicate. Get yourself ahead of the game in some way, shape, or form, because preventing fires is everyone's responsibility, as Paul says. So this next half hour, we're going to talk a little bit more about fire safety and some other instances that you should watch out for. And then we're going to talk about child car seat safety and some other things that hopefully, if we have time permitting, will help you live a better life. So did I sum that up all right, or did I miss anything?
Fantastic.
Okay. So we talked about unattended kitchen fires that are caused by unattended cooking. Somehow I have a hard time communicating that. Fires caused by unattended cooking, and how both you and I had that situation just last night and this morning. I left a pot of boiling eggs on the stove and thought it was raining, and oh my gosh, got up and shut the eggs off, and Paul sprayed a pan and went and worked on the computer and realized, oh my gosh, I forgot. So here you got the fire marshal and me both in the last 24 hours having that same issue. So it could happen to anyone. Thankfully, all of us are safe and we caught it. So one last thing before we move forward is you check your doors to make sure they're locked before you leave the house every morning. Check your bathrooms, check your kitchen, make sure there's no curling irons plugged in, and make sure that your stove and oven are off. It's a routine your body and your mind can get into, and that can help you prevent and not have to deal with this ever in your lifetime. On top of that, what are some other main causes of house fires that you've seen?
Well, we are in the winter months, and people are using their fireplaces, and they clean their fireplace out after the fire is out. Well, first of all, let me say this. I would not go to bed with a fire in the fireplace. I wouldn't. I would make sure it's extinguished. I actually will go and pour water on it to make sure it's completely extinguished. That way I know for sure that a log's not going to accidentally roll out onto the carpet, or it's probably
what if it's just the burning coals?
I still spray them with water. I do.
Okay.
That's just me.
Because you just never know.
I just don't want to take the chance.
Right.
So
the dog could run, tip something over, it could fall into the fireplace, whatever, the cat, who knows? I
just don't like to take chances when you have an open flame in a house or a building. It's just taking a chance. So I just don't take the chance. Now, when the fire is out, people will clean out their fireplace. And we have had many a fire because of people taking their ashes out of the fireplace, putting it in a paper bag, and putting it out on their back deck or someplace like that. What people don't understand is those ashes will stay, and of course it depends on how much ashes are in the fireplace. There's a lot of factors to it. But the ashes will stay hot for a while. You put them in a paper bag, put them outside where there's lots of oxygen and air. They ignite the paper bag on fire, which in turn ignites the deck on fire, which in turn ignites your house on fire. So if you're going to clean your fireplace out, clean it out into a metal container and place the metal container out in the driveway. Or you can spread the ashes around your plants. I understand it's good fertilizer. The other thing is you need to make sure that you have your chimney inspected and or cleaned as necessary.
Yes,
have a chimney sweep come out, look at your fireplace, look at your chimney, and have them. We are not experts. The fire department are not experts about cleaning chimneys. Call a company that's an expert at that. Have them look at your chimney, see what needs to be done to clean it or repair it.
How often is that supposed to happen?
Well, depending on how often you use your fireplace, I would do it every year.
Okay.
Depending on how often you fireplace. I have not used my fireplace in my house yet, and I've been there 8 years. So, but I would definitely get it inspected before I did. Definitely. And the thing is,
somebody else besides Paul must have wanted a fireplace in their home.
Well, no, it just came with the home. But I have people call all the time and say, I've had a chimney sweep come out and say I need thousands of dollars worth of repair, and can you come look at it and can you do this? And the fire department are not. First of all, we have no jurisdiction for code basis in a single family home. Mm-hmm. First, that's a building code issue. So if somebody comes out to the house and they say you need this and you don't like what they're saying, call somebody else and get another opinion.
Just like everything else. Right. Absolutely.
It doesn't mean they're right just because that one company said that.
Right.
But we're not going to go out there and say, oh, yeah, you don't need this, don't this. We're not going to take that responsibility.
Right.
Have it inspected and have it cleaned as needed to ensure that you don't have creosote buildup inside the thing, which we do have chimney fires because of lack of maintenance. So there's two ways to prevent fires. Clean your fireplace out into a metal container and place it on the driveway or spread the ashes around your plants, and make sure your chimney is cleaned and maintained so it's in working condition.
Okay, folks, I don't know about you, but I need to call the chimney expert to come clean my chimney. So if that's all we did today was prompt one person to get their chimney cleaned,
we may have prevented
to prevent
one
a chimney fire. You might have prevented my fire.
We might have.
Paul.
But the other thing was candles.
Candles.
We're in the wintertime and holiday time, and people have candles up. And the other night, my daughter was asleep in her room with 2 candles lit on a shelf. So,
and this is a big time of year because what is a big gift over the holiday season?
Candles.
Candles. So everybody's lighting candles right now.
They are lighting candles. The problem is that when you leave a candle unattended, or if you're asleep in the room with the candle, again, it's an open flame inside of a house around things that burn. If the candle overheats, if the candle happens to get tipped over or knocked over, or if it gets overheated and the glass breaks on the candle container and the wax melts, there's just too many things involved. If you are not in the room with an open flame, blow it out. Put out the candle, put out whatever it is that's an open flame, put it out.
Yeah.
It's not worth the risk.
And I know we have a love for candles. I hate candles. I can't even breathe. Some houses you go to, they have candles in every room, and it constricts my lungs. I have to actually walk outside. I can't breathe. I hate candles, but they do smell good.
They smell good, but they're also an open flame inside your house. It's not a protected thing. So, candles, unattended cooking. Unattended candles and unattended cooking are 2 biggies. And then right now we're in the season of fireplaces and hot ashes, which we just told 2 ways to prevent a fire for fireplaces. Mm-hmm. So it's just an ongoing thing that you have to be aware of.
And well, let's keep with the seasons. So then springtime comes. Fireplaces aren't as big of an issue for the number one reason that a fire might be caused in a home. What then becomes a problem in the spring, do you see?
Springtime, people like to clean their yards, and they like to burn what they collect. So you have to do it in a controlled manner with a water source available to make sure that the fires don't get out of control. In the city of Roswell, we have a no-burn ordinance anyway that prevents people from doing that. The only way you're allowed to burn in Roswell is in a 3 foot or less in diameter fire pit, and it's for the purpose of cooking food or recreation.
Okay, so don't burn your leaves. Put them in bags and dispose of them.
Contact the local sanitation company and find out the best way to dispose of them.
And there's a reason why those laws are in place in a lot of towns, so think about it even if it's not in place in your town.
Right, and we actually can rescind the permission for a burn or having a fire based on weather conditions, which we did several times last year. If the humidity is too low, if the wind conditions are not right, we will prohibit any outdoor burning regardless if it's an approved condition or not. And again, it's just a way to prevent anything from happening.
I know I was in Arizona over the summer, and they were in a major heat wave. Those folks, those smokers, you see people smoking cigarettes in their cars and throwing the cigarettes out the window. It is against the law. They have to keep a container in their car because you throw a cigarette out. I mean, that's how you prevent forest fires, too, because it can light up in a minute when it's too hot out and all of that. So, okay, so then in the summer, what happens in the summer?
Summertime, people are grilling out. They're using their propane grills and their charcoal grills and having a good time. And they're not thinking about a fire. But we have lots and lots of fires due to cleaning out your charcoal grill, just like I explained about the fireplace. If you're going to clean out your charcoal grill, put them in a metal can, put it at the street, or put them around your plants.
And also be careful the first time you light your gas grill after the long winter. And make sure you're unplugging the propane tank from the grill, or when you put it back in. I don't know what happened. I got divorced a couple years ago, and the very first time I went out to the gas grill to turn it on, I had to learn a lot of new things in my new routine. I guess, I don't know what I did. I'm sure it was my fault. But I went to turn the gas grill on, and don't you know, poof! Big flames came right out of the grill. I burnt my eyebrows. I burnt my eyelashes. My hair was coming out in droves. My face was beet red. Luckily, I had no major burns. Lost a lot of hair. Looked kind of funny. Had some chapped cheeks. But scary. That could have caused.
That does sound very scary.
That could have. So I use charcoal. I only use a charcoal grill now. I won't even touch. That thing has sat in my house for 3.5 years now. I've never turned that propane gas grill on ever again. So if somebody wants a gas grill, then come to my house and take it away. But how does that happen? I don't even know what I did.
Well, if you're not using the grill for a certain amount of time, there are animals that get in there. I have found bird nests in my grill before and all that stuff. You got to take a quick look around. Open your grill up and look in there and make sure there's no debris that is collected in there or anything like that.
And just, I guess, check the way you have, and of course, this is so bad, but okay, I'll plead girl. The way it's plugged into the propane tank, and make sure that you're shutting it off, turning the gas off every time you're done with the grill. I don't know.
Well, let me say this about grills. First of all, the LP tank specifically says do not store inside an enclosed building. And people store those LP tanks in their garages, which, okay, that may not be a problem for you, but if you have a fire, it's going to be a real problem for us because they will blow up.
And possibly your neighbor.
Well, yeah. The other thing is people are not permitted to have LP tanks on an apartment balcony, and they're not permitted to use their grills on an apartment balcony. They can't do it within 10 feet of combustible construction.
Any kind of grill, or are we talking about a gas grill?
They can have an electric grill, but they cannot have a charcoal grill or a gas grill.
Okay.
So that's a big, big one right there. But the biggest thing that causes the fires is the improper discarding of the hot ashes or the improper installation of the LP tank on the hose. You have to follow the instructions that the grill provider provide you.
Yeah, that scares me, I'll tell you. Living through it, be very careful of those gas grills. If you're in an apartment complex or a high-rise, a building that has terraces, take a look at your neighbors. Because, you could be the complaining, not-so-popular tenant who just saved the lives of everybody in your building.
Now, there are some buildings that do allow
really?
the grills if it's a sprinkler building and there's a sprinkler head on the back deck.
Okay.
But typically, on a typical apartment, it's not permitted. So it would be something that I will tell you, it would be something that the leasing agents at the apartment complex should know what the rule is. And
that's even something to think about when you go on vacation. Because a lot of times you'd rent a condo or a unit in a building and everybody's coming down. They don't own it. They might buy a little grill, little tabletop grill and start grilling. Those are things to think about.
Yeah.
To alert local authorities that, hey, this is what's going on here. And not to be the prickly older person that is not having any fun, but
you're
seriously,
just preventing a possibility.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've talked about the different fire hazards during the different seasons. Did we forget any?
We did. We forgot fireworks.
Oh, fireworks. Yeah,
July
they scare
4th
me.
is fireworks. Now, we're talking fire safety as well as just personal safety. And fireworks at this time are not permitted in the state of Georgia. So the only fireworks that are permitted are what you can purchase in the retail stores or the retail tents. Fire inspectors in the state fire marshal's office are going in the tents to make sure that the amount of gunpowder in these devices is the proper amount, that it's not exceeding the proper amount. And if they're found with exceeding the proper amount, they're asked to remove those from their location. Let's
talk about that because not that everything's about Jeannie Pete, but these are the stories I have to share with you. I go away every year, 4th of July. I have a pool in my backyard. Almost every year I come back, I find the remnants of fireworks that were put off somewhere near my neighborhood. I don't know who's doing it in my pool. So I don't mind having to clean out the pool, but it scares me that it could cause a fire while we're all away. What are the rules and regulations regarding fireworks? So as long as they buy them from the tent and they're the smaller ones, I don't even know what they're called because I'm not a fan.
They're more of a sparkler or
it's okay
a device.
To do that?
It cannot be a projectile. And it cannot contain, I believe, and I'm
because they sell those bottle rockets and
they don't sell bottle rockets in the state of Georgia.
Here. No, I don't know. I don't know the names. I don't do fireworks.
The type of fireworks that are allowed in the state of Georgia cannot be purchased in the state of Georgia.
Okay.
Yes, there's a lots of people that go to Alabama and Florida and Tennessee and buy fireworks and bring them into the state of Georgia, but they are not permitted to be used in the state of Georgia. And yes,
so you can buy them and they'll light up on the ground, but they won't go anywhere. And they might even pop.
Correct.
Have a noise, but they're not going to go more than 5 feet in the air.
I don't know what the distance is, but they cannot be a projectile. And also there's a certain limit to the gunpowder that's allowed to be used.
So clearly there's a problem somewhere near my neighborhood because they're projectiling into my pool, I can tell you that.
They do the same thing in my neighborhood too. And the thing that one way for your listeners to see what is allowed is they can go to the state of Georgia's Insurance and Fire Safety Commissioner's website, and there's a link there to fireworks safety, and it explains everything that they're permitted to do and not permitted to do.
Okay, great. I'm afraid of them, so I don't know the first thing about them, but I do know I'm cleaning up after them every year.
Yes, they're
okay. So we've talked about the top fire hazards in all of the different seasons, and we've talked about unattended cooking as a major fire hazard. I want to talk a little bit about car seat safety, but before we get there, let's talk about an electrical fire. Are there warning signs? Are there things that maybe people miss where they should have an electrician come in that you could say if they only looked at this, this, and this, they could have prevented this electrical fire?
Well, in my experience, we have not experienced electrical fires that are just a haphazard electrical fire.
Okay.
It would be caused due to overloading an electrical extension cord, a staple through an extension cord, misuse of a surge protector.
How do you misuse a surge protector?
Well, surge protectors are designed to be used where they're plugged directly into an electrical outlet, and then you use appliances that are of the proper wattage in the circuit of the surge protector. I have gone into places where they've got a surge protector with 2 or 3 surge protectors plugged into it, running a bunch of whole different stuff. Okay. You're daisy chaining a surge protector, and it's not supposed to be like that.
Okay.
So the electrical fires, as we call them, aren't necessarily caused because of electricity. They're caused because of misuse of a device or a product.
Okay.
And warning signs on that would be, circuit breakers going off, which is exactly what they're designed to do. If you have a circuit breaker that's constantly shutting off your power, there's probably a problem somewhere. Mm-hmm. But if you'll use the products the way the manufacturer has instructed them to be used, you should be okay.
Okay.
So don't daisy chain your surge protectors. Don't put wrong wattage devices on the wrong size extension cord. Don't staple your Christmas lights to your house, and don't staple your electrical cord somewhere. Don't put cords under rugs so they're damaged physically. Those are the ways to prevent electrical fires.
Okay. And, because if you're stapling, you could staple through the wire.
You're crimping the wire, and electricity is kind of like water. It's flowing through the cord. If you're crimping the cord, guess what happens? It starts to overheat the cord.
Okay. And then while we're talking about surge protectors, when there's thunder and lightning, and here in Georgia we have tornado seasons at the end of the year and then in the spring and anytime really. So we had talked briefly during the break about shutting appliances off, shutting TVs off if you're going away, especially during those storms. So say a little bit about that.
Well, lightning is a very unpredictable thing. Mm-hmm. So it could hit in your front yard and go to your copper water line and go through the whole house and damage the whole house. So there are lightning protection systems that you can purchase and things like that. But personally, if lightning hits my house when I'm gone on vacation or near the house, I make sure I've unplugged my computer so that it's not going to be damaged due to a lightning strike. You hear people who have phones that have gone out, and TVs that have gone out, and computers and things like that. That's because it's going through the wiring of the house. It may not cause a fire, but it may damage your circuits.
Could still be costly.
I do it just as a personal thing I do is to unplug all that stuff so that there's not a conductor for the electricity to go through if the lightning hits it.
Okay. And we only have a few minutes left, so let's talk a little bit about car seat installation and safety because you hear a lot about that as well.
Okay. Our fire department provides a technician who's gone to school to learn how to put them in and verify that the seat's an acceptable seat and that sort of thing. And you can call our office and make an appointment, and he'll meet you at a fire station, and he will actually teach you. He'll install it, but he's going to teach you the whole time he's installing it of how to properly install the car seat.
I cannot stress this enough. I know that we have an older listening audience, but I know there's grandchildren. And here I go again with another Jeannie Pete story. But I was in a car accident. My son was 1 year old. This was almost 16 years ago. And it was when the first car seats came out with the tether strap.
Yes.
And it happened to be that my husband's company bought us this car seat, which we could never have afforded at the time. And we installed it. And I was driving back from a 1-year-old birthday party, and it was the worst rainstorm I had ever driven through. I would have never been so scared. I was trying to pull over from the middle lane to the right lane so that I could pull to the side of the road and stop because it was coming down so hard I knew it wasn't going to last. And as I'm trying to pull over, an 18-wheeler comes flying by me on my left, and it jerked my whole car because there wasn't a lot of traction on the road. And I overcompensated when I went too far to the right. I turned the wheel, and then I spun 3 lanes over. Thank God there were no other cars once the trailer went by me, and rolled down a ditch 3 times.
My gosh.
I was fine by I don't know. And an ambulance was called. I did come out of the car and took my son out of the car from the car seat. But they said, sit down, don't move. When the ambulance came, the EMT guy looked at me in the face and he said, congratulations, Mom. That car seat you bought your son just saved his life. And so I cannot say enough. I lived through this one too. By the grace of God, I had just gone to Costco in a 12-pack of paper towels, landed on my baby's head, and protected him the whole time we were rolling. But those car seats are worth every penny, but they do you no good if you didn't install them correctly.
And that's why we're here for you.
So go to your local fire department, have it checked. You'd be so surprised how many times they're not
right. Now,
installed.
not all fire departments do it, so they need to contact the local fire department, verify that they actually have technicians, because, as I said, the technician goes to school and is actually certified on how to do it. So make sure that they have a person there that can do it. We can do it at our department. We have 3 people that are certified to do it, and I think we did like 260 last year.
And, you know, I could go on and on about this. I'm just so glad we were able to fit this into our show today. We are running out of time, but thank you so much for coming with us today. Those car seats, you'd be surprised. I've heard people say, it seems so tight around my baby. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Better to be tight than that baby slip through, because I've been in one of those crashes, and you cannot control the movement of your body as much as you think you can. And those babies have no muscle, and they could slide right out. So you've got to make sure that even though it doesn't look like they're comfortable, it's better. Am I right? Is that one of the major reasons why? So thank you so much for being here. I feel like we've done a lot of help, even if we never hear how. And we'll have to have you back again.
I'll come back anytime.
Thank you so much. I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead. And listen here, same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.